Welcome to Dante's Disciples. You know that old line, you only get one shot to turn your life around? Yeah, I've had 8 of those, maybe 9. Depends if you count juvie. I'm not some tragic story. I don't have trauma music playing behind me. I'm just the guy who's always in the wrong place at the wrong time. You ever meet someone like that? Doesn't matter what the situation is. Fight breaks out. Store gets robbed. Car crashes. They're just there. That's me. Always there. First time, when I was 13? My buddies were tagging the side of this old warehouse. Nothing major, just stupid kid stuff. I wasn't even holding a spray can. I was just the one keeping watch. Well, keeping watch, meaning I had headphones on and I didn't see the cop car roll up. They ran. I didn't. Judge said I lacked accountability. Whatever. I just lacked cardio. Next time was worse. 16. We're driving to a rave, crammed into this rusty bucket Civic that smelled like weed and energy drinks. I don't even smoke. The guy behind the wheel lights up anyway, like the whole point was to get arrested before we even made it there. Sirens go off behind us. I'm thinking, cool, we'll pull over, get yelled at, go home. Nope. He floors it. 1 tree later, 2 people dead. 3 years inside for vehicular manslaughter, even though I was just a passenger. When I got out, everyone told me I was lucky. Lucky to be alive. Lucky to get a second chance. They don't tell you second chances come with no money, no place to live, and a nice little box on every job form that says, "Have you ever been convicted of a felony?" So yeah, I did what I could. I hustled, drove cars, moved stuff. Stuff I didn't ask too many questions about. Because that's how it works. You don't ask, you get paid. Simple. A friend of a friend hits me up one night and says there's a gig. Quick, easy, good cash. No banks, no guns, no blood. Just a pickup and a drop-off. They needed a driver. Someone clean. Just moving an object, he said. That's the word he used. Object. Should have been my first red flag. When you're broke, every red flag looks like a green light. So yeah, I said yes. And that's where this all starts. With a job that wasn't supposed to be a job. And an object that wasn't supposed to be alive. It was a Saturday evening. The night was thick, damp, like someone had spilled black ink over the streets. Fog clung to the trees and to the fence like it had something to hide. I sat behind the wheel, engine low, knuckles tight on the wheel, stomach growling like a warning drum. 30 minutes ago, the fence had been whole. Now it was jagged metal, half barrier, half promise that whatever came next wasn't going to be simple. I kept my eyes sharp this time. No headphones. You don't wear headphones when everything in the world is trying to eat you. Lesson learned. Then the rear door slammed. 2 figures appeared first, muscles straining under the weight of the safe. The van groaned on its suspension as it hit the floor. The breath came hard, the sound of exertion filling the air. They dropped it with a heavy thump, and the vehicle sagged like it had swallowed a brick. And then I saw him. Harlan. Smug, sharp, always thinking 2 steps ahead. In his hands, he had the girl. Her hands were bound in front of her, mouth gagged, and he shoved her ahead of him, forcing her to stumble slightly over the floor of the van. She was breathtaking. Not in a bar quiet your friends way, in a stop breathing for a second kind of way. Black dress, simple, modest, hem resting just above her knees, paired with a white lab coat that had seen better days. Brown hair, once neatly tied in a bun, now falling in loose strands over her face. Glasses perched on her nose, smudged and slightly crooked. No, I'm not one of those guys. But like her, I notice everything around me. Unlike her, I'm messy, clumsy. She moved like a scalpel. Precise, ruthless, calm, calculating. Her eyes swept the van, registering the safe, the 2 muscle guys, me in the front. Everything. Ray muttered under his breath, probably something crude. Deke didn't speak, just adjusted his hold on the safe to make sure it was more secure. Harlan shifted his weight, keeping the girl upright and steady in his hands, all while issuing directions in that smug, overconfident tone. Josh, keep it steady. Don't hit any bumps too hard. Ray, make sure the safe doesn't move. Eyes up, everyone. I kept my hands tight on the wheel. The tires crunched over gravel, fog swallowing the road ahead. Headlights pierced only enough to show fleeting shadows, and every bump in the road sent vibrations rattling through the floorboards. The girl's eyes caught mine in the rearview mirror. Calm, ruthless, calculating. She wasn't panicking. She wasn't pleading. She was just watching. And that was worse. I kept driving. The city bled past, slick asphalt reflecting neon streaks. My hands clutched the wheel, knuckles white, heart hammering, chest tight like a fist had wrapped around it. The van vibrated with the weight of the safe and the tension in the back. Through the rearview mirror, I saw Ray's hand creep along Allison's thigh, tracing upward from just above the knee, fingers brushing the hem of her dress. One hand still clutched around her neck to steady her. She flicked her head sharply to the side, a twitch of disgust, and he froze, muttering something under his breath. I'd heard stories about Ray. Rough, forceful, didn't care about consent. Known around the block for pushing limits, taking what he wanted if the price was right. That look in his eyes? Simple, primal, disgusting. And now it was aimed straight at her, and I felt my chest tighten, adrenaline curling in my veins. Deke was skinny, wiry, leaned slightly over the safe balancing it, eyes locked on Allison. Slow, deliberate, hunger curling in his stare. Every subtle movement she made under Ray's hand seemed to feed him. My pulse shot up, brain screaming at me to look away. But I couldn't. Harlan leaned forward from his spot near her, twisting the edge of her coat to read her name tag. Allison. His voice, calm and authoritative, slithered through the air. You're gonna help us get this thing open. Then we'll let you go. Simple. I tried to speak, voice tight. Guys, this isn't what we agreed. Shut it. Harlan snapped, sharp and final. His hand brushed briefly along her elbow to guide her posture, a false reassurance for her, a warning for me. Drive and keep it steady, or don't expect a cent. Don't test me. He followed it with a slow look at Allison, then leaned back, closing his eyes, letting the van carry the tension. That's when it hit me. Trapped, surrounded, with no turning back. And this girl, caught between Ray's hands and Deke's stare, was about to endure something I had no business being a part of. Heat ran up my neck. A cold fear settled in my gut, and I realized I wasn't just a driver anymore. I was a witness to whatever came next. The van ran over puddles, metal groaning under weight. Ray shifted the safe, fingers lingering on her leg just long enough to make me flinch. And I kept driving, headlights cutting wet streets, counting every second, knowing the back of this van held something I couldn't control. 15 minutes later, the van crunched across wet asphalt and rolled up to the warehouse. I killed the engine, fingers still tight on the steering wheel, heart hammering. The wind picked up, rattling the van's doors and sending ripples across puddles in the lot. The back doors popped open. Ray and Deke hoisted the safe past the threshold, while Harlan lifted Allison onto his shoulders. At the front, he shifted her off and nudged her towards me, arms bound, gag in place, black dress still above her knee, lab coat flapping in the breeze. I looked at her, shame twisting through me. Okay, well, that's enough for me. I'm out. Harlan's voice carried across the lot, low and sharp. You don't get paid until the job's done, and the job's not done until the safe's open. I don't run a crew for pussies. I froze. For a brief, useless second, I thought maybe I could play hero. Kick him, throw her back in the van, drive away, forget the night, forget the $5,000. Harlan smirked and took a step toward me, closing the space. You want to play hero? Is that what you want to do? I shrank back. No, I'm no hero. He snatched the keys from my hand with a deliberate motion. Allison's eyes met mine again. That glance, unreadable, like judgment, hit me like a fist. The only person who could save her? Me? And I was utterly worthless. I muttered a barely audible, I'm sorry. I reached out, took her forearm in one hand, the other resting lightly on the small of her upper back, and nudged her towards the warehouse door. Even restrained, even gagged, it was like she was guiding me forward, just enough to keep me moving with her, and I followed. The warehouse reeked of old oil, layered with the tang stale of dust that clung to the corners like cobwebs. Overhead, a single bulb flickered, casting weak, restless shadows across the cracked concrete floor. Tools hung from hooks along the walls, tarps draped over shapes that might have once been cars, their outlines jittering in the dim light. In one corner, a kitchenette had been abandoned for years, grime coated every surface, and the sagging bathroom door creaked faintly in the still air. Every detail whispered neglect and something darker beneath. Ray was in the corner, cracking open a beer. The hiss of the tab broke the low hum of the room. His eyes immediately found Allison as I stepped in, her wrist bound, gagged, lab coat brushing her knees and shifting slightly in the breeze from the cracked door. She stayed silent, calm, unresisting. Put her in the chair, Harlan said, his voice low and precise. I guided her to the center of the room, setting her gently in the chair. Her skirt had hitched up enough that I had to tug it down discreetly, avoiding her gaze. She didn't flinch. I let my hand linger briefly on her forearm, then retreated to the back of the warehouse, sticking close to the shadows. Ray chugged his beer and grabbed another, smirking as he watched. Best night I've had in a while, and it's gonna be hers too. Harlan's grin sharpened under the flicker of the overhead bulb. He turned toward Deke, voice dropping into a low hum, measured and dangerous. You think small, Deke. How are we ever going to get ahead if we don't play the game? This isn't luck. There's something in that safe worth more than you imagine. Get it first, you get leverage. Bigger risk, bigger payout. Deke remained unreadable, hand drifting along the rim of the safe, curiosity tempered by caution. You're stepping into the wrong territory. These aren't the people you mess with. You get paid and walk away. Forget it ever happened. I forced my voice, though it sounded small to my own ears. Hey, whatever this is, I wish you the best. But I'm just here to drive, that's it. I can take my $5,000 and go. Harlan's eyes slid to me, dark and cutting. Shut it, driver. You're staying. Later, you'll need to get her out when we're done. And don't test me. Ray laughed, popping the tab on another beer and flexing into a grin that carried just enough thrill to make my gut tighten. Deke's fingers lingered on the cold metal of the safe, tracing its worn rim, tentative but drawn in. After a long pause, he muttered, I'm in, but this is the kind of trouble that disappears you if you misstep. Harlan's grin widened, a flash of something dark and satisfied in the flickering light. He let the words hang deliberate. Good. Now, time to figure out how to open this safe. He tilted his head towards Ray and Deke, the smile sharpening. And don't worry, you two will get your hands dirty and have a little bit of fun. I stayed back, hands gripping the edge of a tool chest, watching the scene unfold. Dust motes swirled slowly in the weak light, catching on strands of my damp hair. Every flicker of shadow, every subtle movement, Ray's casual stretch with a beer, Deke's slow tracing of the safe, Harlan's deliberate pacing made the room feel alive and hungry. Harlan stepped forward, positioning himself between Allison and the rest of us. Legs wide, weight solid and unyielding, his voice lowered to a smooth, measured hum. Now let's see if this pretty little thing wrapped in a lab coat can help us get paid. Allison's eyes flicked to mine, a brief, unreadable glance. Not fear, not hope, just observation, a recognition, almost reproachful, that the only person who could intervene, me, was utterly useless. I stayed back, feeling the rough concrete under my boots, the scrape of my jeans against a tool chest, and the subtle metallic tang in the air. I had a front row seat, trapped, and there was no turning back now. Deke knelt for a moment, his fingers working deftly to untie Allison's hands from the front. They flexed, rubbed, and then he tied them firmly behind her back, leaving her no leverage. She didn't flinch. Even restrained, she remained poised. The room seemed smaller now, tighter. The dim light from the overhead bulb casting shadows that twisted across the walls. Harlan's voice cut through the tension, low and smooth. Cooperate now, and this is easy. Refuse, and it's gonna get a lot worse. He leaned forward, hands on his knees, fixing Allison with a glance. We follow the rules, everyone's happy. He reached down and pulled the gag from her mouth. Allison gasped, words spilling out before she could form them. Water. The backhand came swiftly, sharp. The sting across her cheek silenced her, cutting off her words. Harlan straightened, eyes cold. I'm not your waiter. This isn't Applebee's. Nobody's taking orders. That was your first warning, your only one. Now tell me what I want to know. Her words came in a breathless, tumbling rush, fragmented and desperate. I don't know. I just started here. Evenings, I do stuff no one else wants. I don't have access to anything like that. Please, I don't know how to. Harlan let the words hang for a second. Then a punch struck her solar plexus. She doubled over, gasping, tears brimming, trying to suck in air through clenched teeth. I clenched my fists, wishing I could step in, wishing I could be the kind of man who could take the pain away. But I wasn't. I couldn't. I could only watch, rooted in place. Her body folded against the chair, sobbing, every breath a silent plea for mercy. I thought about my own life, my childhood, the nights hiding under my pillow while my mother got hurt, the times I wanted to be brave, to protect, to step in, and I didn't. It wasn't my fault, not entirely, but it had made me the man I was, an observer, helpless, rooted to the spot. Harlan straightened Allison in the chair, hands firm on her shoulders. His voice softened slightly, calm but controlled. I'm not the kind of guy who does this. I don't like hurting people, but my friends. He glanced at Ray and Deke, both poised, tense, ready. They have their ways. He paused, letting the weight of that statement sink in. Then his hand slipped under the waistband of his back, drawing a small, dark gun. He placed it under her chin, lifting slightly, and looked directly into her eyes. One last chance. Ray stepped forward then, belt coiled in his hand, his confidence radiating through every measured step. His movements were slow, deliberate, controlled. But there was a sickness beneath the surface, a pleasure in what was to come. Even with his back partially turned towards me, I could see it, feel it, taste the dark intent in the air. My stomach turned at the inevitability of what I was witnessing. Allison's chest rose and fell in uneven, constrained shudders, her body trembling from panic and fear. She looked at me for a split second, and then I watched her face tighten as Ray advanced. I clenched my fist again, wishing I could intervene, the type of man who could step in, take the pain away, the one who would do the right thing at the right time. He didn't exist in me. Not as a kid, not now. My body remained rooted, shifting slightly, taut with revulsion and dread. I could do nothing but watch. Ray's hand was steady as he brought the belt down. The sound cracked through the warehouse, sharp and final. I closed my eyes. I wish I could take some of her pain onto myself. I would take all of it, But this wasn't a fantasy. This was a dark reality, and I was front row with no plan, no weapon, no courage, only fear. Only hope she would survive, that she could somehow tell them how to open the safe, if she even knew how.
I ask you, share my voice with others. Let them know that there is warmth in the cold, light in the darkness. My friends, lovers, disciples. This is Dante, signing